All right, hey everybody, it's Tony with Blacktop Magazine. We're here for another episode of Benchracing with Jersey and T-Bone. All right, so do you have a favorite muscle car?
Has to be the 73 Motion Performance Phase 3 Camaro.
Oh, wow, okay.
They were just
73, okay, I'm picturing it now.
I mean, they're not the most, I guess, liked Camaros.
Okay.
But you sprinkle a little motion magic on them. And Joel Rosen said, you know, how fast do you want to go? That's going to depend on how much it's going to cost. Right. You know? And he had a guarantee that these cars would run 11.5s. And he was no joke, man. And that's, if you're wondering, this is Motion Performance out of Long Island, New York. And they were also involved with Baldwin Chevrolet.
Yeah, so I remember Baldwin Motion.
You'll always hear the two names mentioned together, but Motion operated on his own as well. You could buy a car and take it to him. There's actually one 69 Buick GS 400 that he built. Okay. So there's a couple freaks floating around. There's a Buick GSX floating around that he built as well. Yeah. And you know it's his because it's the only GSX that has Keystone mags on it.
Oh, interesting.
It's a weird car, but if it says Motion, you know it's good.
That's not the one that's in your garage.
No, I wish. I wish.
So now talking about that second gen Camaro, you know, was there anything else that was specifically designed when they went first gen to second gen that made those better performance cars?
I believe it was just
I mean, was it suspension upgrades or anything like that, or?
I think it was just kind of the geometry of where everything sat. I think the motor might have changed position a little bit, but I think a lot of it was done in the name of safety. Okay. Obviously, you know, the 5-mile-an-hour bumper era, and even the car that we're sitting under is what's considered an aluminum bumper car.
Okay.
But I don't know. And structurally, underneath it all, the Camaro really didn't change much. Right. I mean, because you could take the subframe out of a second gen and it'll go into a first gen. Yeah. I mean, most of the suspension parts are the same. I think it was just, you know, one of those mid-year changes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then when Motion and all these other guys, I remember hearing a story, and I could be wrong, so this is where your expertise can help me out, is that they had to buy the car without an engine.
That was
and then order the 427.
That was the precipice. That's what led to what Don Yanko did. Okay. The guys doing it before Don Yanko would have to get the cars without the motors in them. Right. Or what they would do is they were delivered to Yanko with 396s in them. He would take the heads and intake and then put the 427 blocks in. Oh. And then you take the 396 and it usually went into, you know, a tow truck or something. We actually found the 396 to our Yanko sitting in a Corvette in a garage in Pittsburgh. Wow. Yeah. And obviously, you know.
And now you've got it back in the car.
We have it back. It's up on a shelf in the shop.
Oh, it's not in the car?
No, it's not in the car. Because it's a step backwards if you put
it. Oh, that's right. Okay. I see
but being that the block is coded for that car. It now stays with that car.
Wow. Interesting. So you're to sell that car.
What Don Yanko did was he went to Chevrolet and he talked them into putting the 427s in the cars and having them delivered to him. So he basically conned Chevrolet using the COPO program into doing what he wanted. Right. You know, he's one of the guys that really twisted the COPO program more in the favor of hot rod and horsepower than fleet cars.
So is it fair to say that all these Yanko, Dana, Nicky are COPO cars?
I mean, you can, but a lot of the stuff that went on before Yanko was involved was kind of like backdoor shop stuff. You know what I mean? It was stuff that these guys said, I wonder. And I mean, even Dana's a fairly stout dealership when it comes to these performance cars, but it's kind of gotten forgotten about because the dealership is now, I think, a piñata store. Oh, it's in Downey. I've actually Google Earthed it to see what the place looked like.
Well, you know, there's a lot of money to be made in piñatas.
Hey, I mean,
can you imagine Camaro piñata? Hey,
it'd sell, especially you Mustang guys. You'd take them clubbing,
right? Taking it to the club. Did you know we have blacktop trading cards? That's right. You can get your car on a cool trading card and share it with your friends at car shows and that sort of thing. Blacktop trading cards. Check it out at blacktopmagazine.com/cards. All right. So, you know, we talked a little bit about your favorites and, you know, a little bit of history on all that. It's like, I remember specifically in the 70s when it all kind of ended with that oil embargo that was going on, and people started doing customized mini trucks and they got into vans and all that and stuff too.
And hot rodders will always find a way, man. You know, no matter what the government restricts us on, we're gonna find a way around it.
But I remember I had a '67 Galaxy in the early '80s, and my roommate had a '69 GTX, and we used to terrorize La Mesa and El Cajon and stuff with those cars. Him more. Mine was kind of just a cruiser, right? But those cars were so easy to get back then.
Yeah, and
you know,
I've been in this business probably over 25 years now, and I always hear the stories. Man, if I only knew, I sold my Camaro for $600. I saw, man, I had a 428. This and I sold it for 500.
Right.
If I had a nickel for every one of those stories, I wouldn't have to do this anymore.
Especially when you're at SEMA. So I remember I was working the booth at SEMA for Classic, and everybody came up. You know, I'm next to this really bitchin' Camaro, and guys are coming up. And they're going, "Oh, I wish I still had my Camaro." But I did hear one guy came up and said, "I still have my '69 Camaro I had." And I'm like, "Wow, you're like one of the only ones I've ever heard that."
I mean, there's a couple people that did have the common sense to just tuck them away.
Right.
And I mean, now I think we're in an era where some of these cars are really starting to come out of mothball status. And from what I understand, I think Big Willie's car, Big Willie had a Daytona, a wing Daytona that had a full fiberglass nose. And people that don't know, Big Willie ran Terminal Island. In Long Beach, which was kind of like outlawed drag racing, but it was basically a community effort to keep kids off the streets and from screwing around.
Because it was a drag strip.
It was a drag strip. And from what I understand, his car has come out of mothballs, and I think it might be going up for auction soon.
And what kind of,
it's a Daytona.
Daytona,
but
on
it's
a drag
set
strip.
up on a drag strip. And he was a big dude, from what I understand. I think he was like 6'6". I know he was taller than me.
Wow.
I mean, from what I understood, he carried himself like a monster. He was a big boy.
Well, Big Willie, I guess he better be big, right?
Yeah.
Or you call him tiny. Now, you know I'm into Hot Wheels and cars like that, and I saw you brought some. Where'd they go? What'd you bring over here?
Actually,
I brought some Johnny Lightnings.
Johnny Lightnings. I just picked this set up last night, and that's actually the Motion Phase 3 car.
Oh wow, okay. And like we were talking about, and it's got the full. No, it's got the split bumper, yeah. And then also a Camaro Phase 3.
But the story about this car is this car was bought in '69 at another dealership, and then brought to Joel Rosen in '74.
Oh, okay.
But supposedly this is one of the nastiest cars that he had ever built.
Wow.
And you look on the side here, little facts about it.
Right.
But that was a thing where, like I said, it could either be a car that came from Baldwin, or it could just be what they call a motion prepped car.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Yanko even did the same thing.
Oh, wow. Johnny Lightning Yanko packs also. Cool.
And of course, that's the Stinger Vega.
Oh, wow. That is cool. I always love small wagons, and there's a Stinger wagon Vega.
And I mean, a lot of people don't realize that Don Yanko actually got his start racing Corvairs. Corvairs were his first car that he pushed. And he talked
on
GM.
A drag strip?
No, not a drag strip. Road racing.
Okay, yeah.
Don was more of a Corvette road racer.
Oh, okay.
And but he had a love for all things motor.
Right.
And once he really got the dealership going, he was able to manipulate Chevrolet into doing whatever he wanted.
Right.
I mean, you didn't just have to buy a Yanko from him. You could go to, there were select other dealerships around the country that you could buy Yankos.
What a smart guy.
He really was on the right path.
So was he the most prevalent of these Copo?
I think he's the most well known because he was able to do the most with what he had.
Okay. Through these other dealer
networks. And and I forget the number off the top of my head, but there's an actual RPO number, regular production order number, that his cars are classified as. It's a super.
Oh.
It basically, when you order in this number, it gives you all the things you need to finish this car off.
Take it to
classify it as it's called the sports car RPO.
And then would this be, then you take that to Don or to one of the dealerships?
You would just either get it from Don or one of his connected dealers.
Okay.
But you could also go to his place with a car that you bought someplace else and have the Yanko treatment put on it too.
Okay. So with that as an RPO, then it's not Copo anymore.
Right.
Okay.
But then you
easier
have,
to get to.
You have Yankos that are also called double Copos because they're so loaded up with options that don't belong in the car.
Okay.
That because not only will they have the supercar RPO, but they also have the other special RPOs on top of it.
Which might be more like luxury items?
Luxurious
or
items,
trim?
either no console or 4-speed. It's
Okay.
just
A variety.
again, it's a rabbit hole once you start going down this hole of numbers. And then, not to leave Pontiac too, there was also Royal
Right.
Pontiac,
Right. Okay.
who Arnie Beswick was one of the drivers for Pontiac or for Royal.
All right.
But they did the same thing.
Ace
Same-
Wilson. Yeah.
They did the same treatment, just with Pontiacs, mostly GTOs, but I think you could even get some of the bigger cars, like Catalinas and stuff, prepped with their stuff.
Okay.
But it just, and then there's Mr. Norms too for Dodge. So
Oh yeah.
every brand had their hot rod.
Yeah.
Shelby obviously being the most prominent for Ford. I mean, even Shelby's still around in some corporate sense.
Right. And then I remember seeing the Rebel AMC Rebel
Rebels.
machine.
Yeah.
And God, that just went across the block for a good couple $100
And
grand.
they were factory hot rods.
Yeah.
That was AMC's stab at trying to remain relevant in some kind of
Right.
hot rod world, and their AMXs were monsters too.
Oh, I always liked the AMX.
And I believe the red, white, and blue road race version.
Donahue,
Donahue.
Mark Donahue
Yeah.
version.
Who was also a Camaro driver too in the Trans Am series.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love that. I was around at that time watching it on TV and stuff, or you'd see a Wide World of Sports. But I also remember going to my public library, and they had films that you can watch from previous races and stuff. As a kid, I'd go in there, and then I got the Tyco slot car race set with the red, white, and blue Javelins and AMXs and stuff.
Those would be the only electric cars I ever play with.
That was?
Those.
They love those. Yeah, that's right. You don't like the electric cars at all. So this has been a lot of fun, Jersey again. I really appreciate it, and I'm thinking our next one should be about those wild, wacky, crazy custom cars from the 60s.
Oh.
Because I just got back from seeing Dave Shutton's place over there,
man,
Galpin Speed Shop, and
I have to get back up there one of these days.
it's nuts.
I was there for one of the children's hospital parties, and I actually have video of Gene Winfield dancing to Old Dirty Bastard. One of my favorite moments, man. I love Gene. Gene is such a character.
Oh,
Gene
yeah.
is always happy to see you, no matter who you are.
Right, and
Gene
where you
is,
are.
Gene is just happy to be seen.
Yeah.
And he's hot rod legend.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys, man. He's super nice. And I actually met, if anybody knows, Robert Williams.
Oh,
Robert
that's
Williams
right.
is an artist
Yeah.
who actually worked with Roth back in the day on his team of monster artists.
Okay.
And when I met that man, he was like, "Well, what do you want a picture with me for?" I said, "Because you're Robert Williams." And he's the only person to ever go, "Well, F and A," and put his arm around. I was like, "Wow, it's got to be the coolest." And every time I meet Robert, and I feel like such a fanboy because I always have to shake his hand or say hello because it's just,
Right.
I'm glad to be in a position to meet these people.
Yeah.
And when I see them, man, it really lights me up to see them out at events, the same events that I'm at.
Incredible wild art of Robert Williams too. I mean, it's all hand in hand. He's got several Robert Williams pieces hanging
yeah.
up in his shop and stuff over there.
Robert's a good friend of his too.
Yeah.
I always see him out and about, and he always has Robert's car, Prickly Heat.
Oh, okay.
In the shop, the little yellow roadster.
All right. Wow. Well, anyway, it's been great. Cool. Thanks again. And
Looking forward to that one.
right. Okay. So see you the next episode too. Thanks for watching. Take care.